We're going to talk something really good. Well, why don't we talk about it now? Something really good, like Ohio State. Do you sort of sit there and say, this could have some tragic ending? No, it's not. It's just going to keep rolling and they'll get 60 points a game.
They're really good. I've covered Ohio State for 15 years. They're as good as any team I've covered. I think I've said it on here before. They don't have a glaring weakness. They can throw it. They can run it. The offensive line has played well. Defensively, they have the best defensive player in the country in Chase Young. They might have the best cornerback in Jeff Okudah. The linebackers have played a lot better this year, and they're getting really good coaching on both sides of the ball, which wasn't necessarily the case on defense last year. They could beat themselves. I mean, there's no guarantees, but I think they're the best team in the country. They're the most balanced, deepest, best team in the country.
All right, it's hard to talk about something that happened and then you get to ask, would you have done this? And the answer, if it worked out, sure you would do that. When Fields came back and he comes in from the injury, first of all, I didn't want him in the game. Shows what I know. Secondly, I guess after the game, they said it could have been a Heisman moment. Did you that pass? Was that a Heisman moment for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, it's a Heisman moment, but I always think it's kind of weird. After the game, people are asking about going 12-0. And to me, on Michigan Saturday, it's just about the Michigan game. So
Nothing else exists.
It's a Michigan moment.
Yeah.
It's a the game moment. It's you have a legendary moment in the greatest rivalry in sports, and that matters more than anything else.
To me, Desmond Howard going with the Heisman pose is one of the great moments in all of sports. And thank goodness nobody's replicated it.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, Chase Young could have done that maybe on Saturday. So, I mean, if they might end up with 3 people in New York. I mean, they have 3 legitimate Heisman contenders. I don't think any of them are going to win. But that moment for Justin Fields, for a kid from Georgia who kind of came to Ohio State out of nowhere to have that moment in the game, that's what you think about. I always think about who's going to be on the highlight clip for Ohio State,
sometimes
Michigan.
it's guys you never heard of. Last year, Olave, where did he come from?
He was a freshman, barely had played before, catches 2 touchdowns against Michigan. Garrett-Wilson, as a freshman from Texas, caught 2 touchdowns for Ohio State on Saturday. So when I think to myself, might you be in the highlight clip of the game 20 years from now, that Justin Fields pass might be in it?
In the locker room after, did some of these guys now get it, what this whole thing is all about? They'd heard about it. They practiced something almost every day of practice for that game, which does away with the theory of one game at a time, gentlemen. But do you think they get it now?
So I think that's like a very interesting part of this rivalry lately, and it relates specifically to Ryan Day, who's a guy from New Hampshire who did not grow up in this.
Right.
There's a lot of guys on this team. You run through the roster. Chase Young is from Maryland. Jeff Okudah is from Texas. jk-dobbins is from Texas. Justin Fields is from Georgia. Wyatt Davis is from California. Their most important guys aren't from here.
But they all know Carmen, Ohio.
Well, they better learn it quick. But they don't grow up in it, and so it's not about, when I started on the beat, a lot of times there were so many Ohio kids under Jim Tressel, you'd talk during the week and you'd say, what do you remember about Ohio State, Michigan? And they'd remember watching something on TV when they were 8 years old. There's none of that anymore. We don't talk to these guys about what happened when they were 8 years old, because when they were 8 years old, they were in Texas and Georgia and Florida and California. What they talk about now is what they live. That's what they know, what's drilled into them when they get on campus and what they live in the moment. So it's a new understanding of the rivalry, but when Ryan Day is in tears after the game, after winning, he became just the 11th person ever as the coach of Ohio State to beat Michigan, and it brought him to tears. That's his memory. It's not about what happened when he was a kid. It's about, I care about this, and now I've lived it, and it's part of me, and that's what Ohio State does now.
Well, it did go that way for Urban, growing up in Ashtabula.
Absolutely.
That was a big part of him.
And we're used to that. Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer were a combined 16-1 in this game, and they both grew up with it. Urban Meyer could tell you stories about when he was a kid listening to this game. Jim Tressel would talk about Rex Kern being his favorite player. They had deep ties as kids, but that cannot be a requirement to be the Ohio State football coach. Or if you make it a requirement, you have to grow up in Ohio to coach Ohio State football, you're eventually going to lose to Michigan because you're going to run out of people.
Yeah, well, John Cooper was the wrong guy, no matter where he was from.
And that's an important point because this was happening a lot during the week. And I was texting this to my tech subscribers at cleveland.com, 14-day free trial. Just
Hold on.
because.
Okay, continue.
14-day free trial, $4 a month. Just because, cleveland.com/OSU, try it out. Just because Ryan Day is not from Ohio doesn't make him John Cooper. I think that's very important. He can't ever be Jim Tressel or Urban Meyer, but he can be a guy who's not from here who gets it. I don't think Cooper ever got it. When Ryan Day was in tears after the game, I think that told you that he gets it.
It won't happen, but would, at that time, back with the Fickle thing, would you think that Vrabel would have been a choice?
Oh, no. I mean, people knew, like, absolutely. People thought Mike Vrabel, when Mike Vrabel came here and started his coaching career at Ohio State with Luke Fickell,
right.
and then Mike Vrabel was on the staff with Urban Meyer, people knew then that Mike Vrabel was going to be a head coach.
So
and
Ryan Day came out of nowhere.
The question was whether Mike Vrabel would be in the NFL or in college, and obviously he chose an NFL path. Again, Ryan Day 3 years ago was just the offensive coordinator of the 2-14 San Francisco 49ers, and he got fired when Chip Kelly got fired. He was just a guy. Nobody knew who he was. He was a good football coach, but then as soon as, and I'll be honest, Les, and I relate to this, I'm not from here. I didn't know anything about Ohio State, Michigan before I moved here, but now I've covered it for 15 years. I very quickly understood it.
How do you like it?
I mean, I try to write flowery on Ohio State, Michigan Day, because it's the game, man. I try to appreciate the history. I would hate to be disqualified just because I didn't grow up in Ohio.
Let's see if we got enough room for the top performers from that game. On Saturday, up at Ann Arbor, there you see Justin Fields, 14 of 25, 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Dobbins, 31 carries, 211 yards. He was tremendous, 4 touchdowns. Garrett-Wilson, and he had a huge game, 3 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown.
jk-Dobbins became the 4th Buckeye to rush for 200 yards against Michigan. Joined Carlos Hyde, Ezekiel Elliott, and Beanie Wells.
Wow, that's pretty good company right there. George didn't make it?
Nope. Close. Archie had like 173 or something one time, but yeah.